There's a new series, the Stanford Prison Experiment, Unlocking the Truth. And I have today director and executive producer Juliet Eisner. It's going to be on the National Geographic Channel. Good morning, Juliet. How are you?
Good morning. I'm well. How are you, James?
Fine. The first question I want to ask you is this. How did you find out about this?
Yeah, I mean, I wasn't a psychology major. I hadn't learned about this Stanford Prison Experiment in school like a lot of other people do, and yet I still knew about it. It was still kind of household name, and I was just curious to learn more. It was such a compelling story, these kids locked in a basement, half of them are prisoners, half of them are guards, and they turn on each other, and the guards become abusive, and the prisoners have mental breakdowns all over the course of 6 days. It was just an insane, shocking story, and I really wanted to learn more, and kind of started digging into it, realizing that not that many of these people who were part of this thing had ever really spoken about their experience. It was always the professor who kind of owned the narrative. And so I decided to call them and find them and talk to them and, you know, quickly learned that there was a lot more to the story, that they had a lot to say, and that a lot of, their experiences kind of put to question this narrative that we had learned over so many years.
So many years. We're talking 50 years ago when this actually happened. So now here you are, you're a psychology major, you hear about it, you study it, you decide, wait a minute, I need to find out more about this. You got a chance to talk to these guys. How did they feel? What were their words that they told you, guard and prisoner? What were some of the things they told you?
I mean, across the board, it's so interesting. Across the board, they were just angry at Dr. Zimbardo. That's what they felt. They all had very, very different memories and experiences of what happened in that hallway. Some of them felt very guilty. Some of them didn't feel guilty at all. Some of them kind of didn't even, couldn't even remember what had happened, like, when they were 18 years old, and it was totally inconsequential to them. But across the board, they did not like how Dr. Zimbardo had painted them and their experiences to the world, and they wanted to tell their side of the story.
Tell us a little bit about Dr. Zimbardo.
Yeah, I got the chance to sit down with him. He's also in the film. He's very much a part of this story, just like the participants are. He, even in his older age, he passed away a month ago, which was, very sad. He was very thoughtful, very smart, had a lot to say about this thing, and wanted to respond to his critics, of which there were many. And he, defends himself. And I think that he really truly believes that he was doing this study for the greater good. I would say that he left a lot of important details out of the telling of his study, and used it to propel him to kind of global fame in a way. But he definitely started an interesting conversation, and for that I'm very grateful, because we're still talking about this thing today, and I think it's still worthy of our of the public discourse and of our interest.
Speaking of interest, how do we do this research and talk to all these people? And what prompted you to make a docuseries out of it, to film all of this?
Yeah. I think as I started to realize that a lot of these guys just had very, very different stories than Dr. Zimbardo's story, it became just this kind of like this puzzle that I could piece together in a really interesting way. It just had all the elements of kind of a really interesting, kind of twisty, turny, almost investigative, like true crime feeling series, even though it's not a true crime, but maybe a little true crime adjacent. But I was so lucky to have all of these people and all of their stories come together. They're all talking about the same things, but they all see it in different ways. And it was very fun to get to play with perspective, and lent to a really kind of entertaining, I think, series.
What do you want the audience to take away from this? Because you're talking about an experiment, you turn it into a docuseries, but we have real prison systems with real problems. What do you want the audience to take away?
Yes. I think one of the things that I was kind of most disappointed about when it came to this study was how little it really did comment on the horrendous situation, the horrendous prison system that we have in this country. It really glosses over that. It has no kind of meaningful exploration of the criminal justice system in this country. That is a disappointment to me. What the study does show, I think, is that a man who has a very strong kind of headline grabbing narrative can take a story very, very far and build a career off of it. And very few people questioned him along the way. And that it's important to question those types of people and to listen to other people and to hear their perspectives when a story involves, 2 dozen. You can't just take one person's word as truth.
I've been speaking with Juliet Eisner. She's really got my attention on this. National Geographic, the Stanford Prison Experiment. Got to check it out. Juliet, thank you for joining us on Morning Blend and telling us about this docuseries.
Thank you so much for having me. Thank you, James.
Thank you.